Chapter 14. As Alena searches for Rod.
Why do you love me?
Does it matter why?
Of course it matters.
The warm light of the sun washes away the darkness from his inner consciousness. A beautiful woman stares into Rod's eyes. He knows this woman, but not from where or even when. She's familiar, but lacks any features to define her. A blurry haze paints across the canvas before him. A cozy room with clean furniture, the sun's rays piercing through two wide windows. An aura of warmth and love fills the room, but the haze keeps him from truly feeling it. The woman places her hands on her hips.
So?
Still waiting for an answer. Rod chuckles and replies with a loving laugh. Well, because of the way you look at me. The mysterious yet familiar woman giggles along with him for a moment, then leisurely moves to him. He fights with all of his might to see her. His head throbs.
Well, I guess that will have to do.
She closes in for a kiss, whispering,
I love you too, till the stars no longer shine in heaven.
The beautiful painting melts before him, a picture etched in time that he will never be able to fully cherish except in his dreams. Darkness, like black oil, smears all light. That old familiar voice echoes through his mind and soul again.
Time to wake up. I need you.
Why me?
You're very important to me.
The Dark One continues.
There's a plan for you, for us both. I need you awake. A darkness far blacker than anything we've known is coming. It descends upon this realm like a tsunami. Stop dwelling on a life you can never have.
I can't. A part of me is missing, and I can't figure out why. I try to remember, but all I see is blackness, and all I feel is pain.
The pain will keep you alive. It will harden you for the trials ahead. I promise you, once this is all over, you will have the eternal rest you long for. Now, wake up.
The cold, dark veil of the dream is traded for the darkness of reality. Rod does a quick body check, wiggling all fingers and toes. All limbs seem to be in working order. An aching pain from the fall reverberates throughout his body. The weary hunter lays motionless at first, waiting for his eyes to adjust to the darkness. Only the cold night air was the blanket for his slumber. A new sensation touches his left hand. Small, shivering fingers rub his. Neurons fire off through the synapse of his brain. The little girl. He tries to talk slowly and quietly, in hopes not to arouse anything in the vicinity. Are you all right? The tiny hands squeeze him as tears fall from her hidden face. Her voice quivers as she speaks.
Yes, I thought you were dead.
I'm okay, I think. Another quality check as he moves his right arm over to the girl. He searches for her face through the veil, unhurriedly as not to hit her. Eventually finding what he seeks, Rod rubs the girl's hair and wipes the tears from her eye with his thumb. We're alive, and that's all that matters. The dark voice whispers again to the hunter.
We're not through this yet. Time to get your wits about you. Something is coming.
A slight pause as if the Dark One went to check ahead. Rod waits, still surveying each body part individually. The voice stirs in Rod's mind again.
Creeping death approaches.
Rod whispers to the girl, "What's your name?" Her timid voice replies,
Annabelle.
"Hello, Annabelle. My name is Rod. Something's coming in our direction. I'm going to need you to be brave and move to my head and take several large steps backward. Can you do that for me?"
Yes, sir.
Good girl. Rod squeezes the young girl's shoulder and starts to get up. Too late. A rustling in the darkness comes for them. He ushers Annabelle ahead of him and lays back down with both hands gripping their respective guns. Like he's done so many times before, the demon hunter slows his breathing down to take in every sensation. This ability gives him a detailed map of his surroundings, waiting for the precise time to strike. For now, he waits and evaluates the oncoming threat. The sound of multiple footsteps thuds through the darkness, akin to walking with more than 2 legs or on all fours. The sound of light taps ricochets off the ground. Rod takes in every sensation the dark world offers. A hot breeze brushes against his body with the stench of rot and mildew riding along. Rod senses the size of the entity as it pushes through the dank air. Slowly it inches closer to the hunter. A light tapping echoes off the ground as the veiled form reaches Rod. As the 2 front feet make it to ear level, something starts padding against Rod's feet, gradually inching up his legs. It feels like 2 hounds sniffing his jeans for a treat, hidden in a pocket. A horde of coarse bristles rubs irritatingly as the hidden molesting continues up his body. The being is apparently sniffing as it picks up this familiar scent. In doing so, warm, thick liquid drops onto Rod. The dark hounds surge in ferocity as it thumps up his stomach and chest. Drip drops of the sludge wash across his chest. It's warm but steadily intensifies in heat. The acidity of the fluid burns through Rod's shirt. He hears the raspy murmur of the creature. An arachnid, Rod shouts in his mind. Instinctively, he fires a slug from Damon Malum. The light from the shot, for a brief moment, shows the arachnid over Rod. The slug ignites, spraying the scatter shot through the creature's mouth and out its lanky body in all directions. After the shot fires, Rod rolls to the left as the arachnid drops to the ground where he once laid. He barrels through the 3 legs that impeded his escape. No doubt the gunshot signals to the others of their presence and location. Clanging soon erupts all around them like metallic war drums, the sound of millions of tiny tapping feet against metal. Rod's location is becoming clearer. He and Annabelle are in the sewer system. They must have fallen into the crater near the skyscraper. Getting to his feet, Rod races to Annabelle. His eyes have adjusted to the dark. The white from Annabelle's sleeves turns into a burning beacon to her location. Rod scoops the young girl into his arms and takes off, running as quickly as his body will allow in the pitch-black tunnel. The drumming of the marching spider demons creeps ever faster. Rod holds Annabelle with his left arm and searches the wall with his right, hoping to find a turnoff down another path. At their current speed, the spider army will be on them in no time. He's got to think fast. What can he do to slow them down? The clatter of their feet against the metal ground is almost deafening, followed by their raspy cries. No time to conserve. Rod has one last thermal grenade. Seems like the best time. Stopping, he reaches into his belt pouch. "Close your eyes, honey." Rod as he pulls the pin and tosses the grenade into the darkness. Sprinting through the tunnel, light suddenly bursts out, burning away all the gloom. He finds another path to his right and sprints in, just in time as a ball of fire swirls through the tunnel. The explosion rips part of the sewer, turning the metal into projectiles of death. The arachnids that were not blown to pieces are eviscerated with hundreds of steel shrapnel. The shock of the blast brings Rod to his knees. He fights with all the strength he can muster to stand and keep running. A promise was made to this little girl, and he wasn't about to break it. Still holding Annabelle, the blind hunter continues down the new tunnel, his boots clanking against the metal as he moves. The illuminated blast erases Rod's adjusted night vision. He goes back to blindly searching the walls for another turnoff. Hopefully, by zigzagging through the sewers, he will throw the arachnids off their trail, or at least slow them down enough to spread the gap between them. It doesn't take long before the roar of the marching arachnids fills the sewers again. Time is growing short. If Rod keeps this up, he will be too exhausted to fight off the onslaught. There has to be a way out. As the heavy weight of despair sinks into the pit of Rod's stomach, a tiny glimmer of hope envelops his hand. He feels the open air to another passage. Taking this path nets a new smell, an aroma not so foul. This must be the way out, or at least leading us in the right direction. An eternity passes for the two as they continue stumbling in the dark. The flavor of crisp air invigorates the beaten man to keep pushing forward. Annabelle keeps a watchful eye as the hunter carries her through the damp, rusted maze, only closing them when the clank of marching legs becomes too much to bear, the ever-rhythmic reminder that death is not far behind. Just when Rod is at his weakest moment, another speck of hope peeps out before them. "Light!" he yells, looking out ahead. The beam shines in from his left about 50 yards away. He takes a deep breath and pushes onward. They're almost free. Excitement is soon swept away as the arachnids round the last corner, closing in on the pair. Rod runs with all his might, each step becoming heavier than the last. Still, he pushes on. "We will make it out," telling himself over and over while he throws all his muscles into overdrive. "We will make it out." Halfway there, one foot in front of the other, he continues forward. Suddenly losing balance, but only for a second, he presses on. Annabelle peers over Rod's shoulder. The creatures are coming into sight with each step closer to the light. The young girl looks on as the Spider-Men fight each other to get in front. Thousands of legs struggling to be first. Many blue eyes pierce through the void, glaring at the two delicious human morsels. Their brawling for the lead is slowing the stampede down, giving Rod and Annabelle the advantage. Less than 20 yards to the turn, Rod spots water moving across the tunnel in the direction they're heading. That's definitely the way out. As they get closer, he can see the deep reddish color of the water. Possibly rust from the metal tunnels, he muses with a heavy pant. Finally making it, Rod turns, looking back for any surprises. However, the surprise is right before them. No tunnel left, only the dark emptiness of the crater. The staggering hunter doesn't notice until it's too late. Rod steps where there is no ground. He looks over his right shoulder as he falls, seeing where the tunnel continues on. Without hesitation, he throws Annabelle over. The girl lets out a cry as she lands in the metal passageway, sliding several feet forward. The hunter points his arm and fires the grappling hook at the bottom of the tunnel. The cable stiffens, and he swings underneath the pipe, latching on to the earth. Stopping for a moment, he looks back at the opening as the arachnids turn the corner. The rusted water causes several of the creatures to slip and slide right over the ledge, one after another. They are so fixated on eating that a fight breaks out in the middle of the colony, causing more arachnids to be pushed out of the tunnel and into the dark depths of the crater. Retracting the cable, Rod pulls himself up to Annabelle. He sits there for a minute to take several breaths. Annabelle rushes into his arms, knocking the breath right back out of him. The adrenaline still coursing through her veins, sobbing, she thanks Rod repeatedly. He hugs and pats her back, trying to soothe her. Several minutes go by before she's tranquil enough to fall asleep in his lap. The weary hunter uses the opportunity as well for a quick reprieve. Reaching into his pocket and pulling out his tin, Rod examines his last 2 cigarettes. He grabs one and lights it. The first drag burns deep in his lungs. He holds the smoke for several seconds before blowing it out. Gazing up into the night sky, the light from the full moon shines on the crater and surrounding areas. It is so massive that all the hunter sees is darkness, except for the tiniest of tips from the tallest buildings toward the moonlit skyline. Rod takes another drag and loses himself to the beautiful, deathly night. He gazes at the twinkling stars, blowing another cloud of smoke. In another place and time, it would be a perfect evening. Rod ponders this before looking to his left at a feral arachnid pawing with its black armored leg in the pair's direction. Raspy moans break through the night air as it tries to reach them. The blue-eyed creature outstretches a bit too far and loses its balance, slipping into the crater. The next in line mimics the last one, extending its spider leg out to Rod and Annabelle. This continues on for the remainder of their respite. Rod finishes his cigarette and flicks the butt at the arachnid, which inadvertently causes a fight between several of the creatures. The butt hits the leg of the second arachnid in line. The cherry from the cigarette singes some of the hairs on the leg, which it shakes, accidentally hitting the third arachnid. The third hit the second. The second thinks it is the first. The scuffle causes several of the spider demons to fall into the crater's dark depths, allowing the next wave to move forward and start the entire process over as the pair nod off. Rest feels swift for the hunter and young girl when one of the spider legs is able to tap Rod on the shoulder. Muscle memory awakens before consciousness. He pulls the revolver from its holster and fires in the direction of the touch. The shot and inevitable scream from the arachnid rouse Rod and Annabelle from their slumber. They both wake and look over just in time to see the creature fall off the tunnel's edge. Rod holsters the revolver and pats Annabelle on her back. "Time we get moving." The young girl nods and stretches before getting to her feet. Still extremely exhausted, the hunter stands and gives out a long stretch as well. He looks up to the heavens, opening his mouth to a great big yawn. The two begin the expedition through the dark tunnel ahead, but not before Rod fires off one more shot at the mindless Spider-Men, killing it and allowing the next in line to come to the front. The trek through the next sewer system is slow at first, allowing their eyes time to adjust to the lack of radiance from the moon. Luckily, this trip is peaceful. At least as peaceful as a trip through an ancient sewer system populated with carnivorous arachnids trying to devour you can be. It is quiet for the most part, except for the occasional whisper from the darkness. Not from Rod's consciousness, but from entities inhabiting the sewers. The beings speak evil tidings of lust with demons and the tearing of flesh from their bones. Terror grips Annabelle at first, but Rod takes her by the hand and explains the workings of an Urino. These apparitions are not able to cross over to this plane of existence, so they try to lure a weak-minded human into self-doubt and fear, allowing the spirit to latch on to their soul and feed off of it. Though never being able to cross planes, the Urino will eventually have the strength and persuasion over the human, so it will do the apparition's bidding. Annabelle did not quite understand, but was still listening. It allows her to push the demonic whispers out of her mind and only concentrate on Rod's calming voice. He slows down and squeezes her hand. "As long as you remember that you are in control and not them, you'll be okay. If the fear ever becomes too much, recite these words. Dear Lord, give me the strength to block out all evil with the light of your love. Now you." Annabelle recites the line. Rod urges, "Deliver these words out loud or in your mind and picture these words projecting out of your body. The world will listen." She nods in the dark, even though Rod can't see, and he senses her soul repeat the chant. Her fear, with each recycle of the phrase, slowly subsides, and just like that, the dark coils from the malicious whispers die out. Only the sound of running water resonates through the sewer system. Eyes adjusted, the pair hastens their way through the tunnels. Several twists and turns through the channels, and one backtrack from a dead end, and they reach an opening through a crumbled wall. Rod steps through first. The room is a 12 by 12 foot square. The withered walls match the concrete cracked floor. Weeds snuck their way in through several of the larger fissures on the floor. Ahead of them is a discolored ladder leading up to a walkway. Rod walks over to it and grasps either side. He gives it a good shake to test its sturdiness, then turns to Annabelle. "Follow me once I reach the top."
"Okay,"
the girl replies. She keeps a watchful eye at the tunnel entrance. Though nothing followed them, Annabelle is quite hesitant to keep her back toward the opening. Just the thought of the arachnids somehow finding their way across sends chills up her spine. These spider demons aren't like the ones in the garbage truck. No trench coat to hide their grotesque bodies. The upper body is very much human. Torso and chest look like they belong to a man. The arms, however, are missing. Not torn off, just nubs at the shoulders. All the heads are bald, with blue eyes, each missing a nose and mouth, as if the skin on their face melted, then hardened, masking any resemblance of human diversity. The 6 spider legs protrude from the pelvic region. The skin of the pelvis and thighs still lay over the black scales of the spider appendages. No genitals, likely torn off when the spider legs burst through, ripping apart the human legs in the process. A truly demonic metamorphosis. Unlike the previous arachnids, the ones in the sewers had no sign of intelligence. They are merely creatures living with the most basic of natural functions. Their only purpose, when Annabelle and Rod arrived, is to feed. They will stop at nothing to nourish themselves. These creatures act as insects without a queen, lost without any true purpose. Rod reaches the top and whistles down to Annabelle. She turns to the ladder and makes the ascent. Rod helps the young girl at the last step. Her nightgown, which was once white, is now covered in black, grays, and a splatter of red. Rod didn't fare any better. His leather jacket is covered in imp blood, and his shirt torn at the chest. They are a ragged-looking pair. They follow the walkway to the end and climb up another broken walkway up above them. They repeat the climb several times, zigzagging between walkways as the pair scale the square room. 15 or 20 minutes go by when they finally reach a pathway with a closed door. Rod grabs the knob and turns slightly, and to his surprise, it isn't locked. He motions Annabelle to step back. He pulls his pistol before turning the knob. The heavy steel door puts up a fight at first, but the hunter manages to get it open enough to squeeze through. He surveys the area before allowing Annabelle to proceed through the door. It's a massive area with lit torches fastened to columns. Most of the drywall on the columns has withered into dust and blown away. Now just rotted steel beams quietly sit, awaiting their inevitable death through the ever-marching of time. No windows in the vast room. The floor is covered with ancient debris and the occasional droppings. By man, beast, or otherworldly creature, Rod cannot distinguish. Only the stagnant aroma of decay fills the hollow room. Large pieces of fallen rubble and part of a column lay several feet in front of the door. A nice hiding spot for the duo when they first enter. Rod crouches next to the pile and waves Annabelle in. She squeezes through the opening and crawls on her hands and knees over to Rod. Peering out of the side, he detects the light dancing from the torches, coupled with the sound of sporadic drops of water. They wait here for several more minutes. Once he is comfortable with the area, Rod cautiously turns back to Annabelle. "Wait here while I check ahead." Not wanting to be taken by the darkness far outweighs her fear of being alone. She nods and curls up behind the rubble. "Do you know how to whistle?"
"Yes."
"If you see anything, just whistle. I'll come running. When the coast is clear, I'll whistle twice. Got it?" She nods. He smiles and caresses her blonde head. Rod takes another quick peek before emerging from the debris pile. Staying low and light-footed, he makes his way to the first lit column. The torch doesn't reveal much. As he reaches the pillar, the sounds of the torch crackling the dried wood resonate around the area. The burning wood helps mask the pungent odor of feces and ammonia. Rod stays out of the lit perimeter from the torch, making sure as to not show his presence to any creatures that could be in the room. Passing the first column, he makes his way to the second, still silent with each step. Again, not stepping into the light, the hunter looks back to the rubble. He can see the top of Annabelle's head as she keeps eyes locked on his movement, though at this distance he is sure that she cannot see him. Rod goes back to the task at hand. Up ahead to his right, past another pillar, is a hallway. As he reaches the shadow-covered post, multiple whispers travel on a gust of damp wind toward him. As soon as Rod makes it to the corner, the whispers stop. They sensed me, he thinks to himself. Rod's hands reach for his pistols. Putting his shoulder against the corner, he listens. Nothing. All is quiet, possibly just imagining it. Slowly, he turns the corner. Ahead of him is a long, dark hallway. At the end is a torch-lit staircase. On either wall are vertical metal bars. No doubt a prison, but for what? A question that is answered as he sneaks down the hallway. Faint whispers from his right. Another murmur to his left. Rod keeps his pace slow, waiting for the right moment, his hands close to each pistol. A voice calls out, "Who are you?" Rod pulls his pistol and aims at the direction of the voice. A woman emerges from the dark cells. Her brown hair is nappy and curled into several balls. Her face is long and dirty. She's lived in that cell for far too long. However, there is still a hint of determination and hope in her hazel eyes. A woman who's seen the evil of the world but refuses to give in to it. Rod lowers his pistol and slides it back into the holster. "I'm a hunter." Several gasps of relief fill the prison hall. Low voices grow into low chatter as more people appear, ranging from children to the elderly. All colors and creeds are present. One thing you can say for demons, they never discriminate. All humans are perfect for their lurid pleasures. After skimming both sides of the hallway, Rod looks back to the nappy-haired woman. "I'm working on a contract with another hunter. How many are with you?" "Only 30 of us are left." "How long have you been here?" The woman pauses for a moment, trying to count the days of her captivity. "I've been here for several weeks. Some women in the other cell arrived 4 days ago. The children have been here for quite some time, longer than I have." "All from the same town?" Rod asks. "I'm from Hutt Valley," the woman answers. Other voices answer the hunter, hidden within their dark confines. "We're from Ankin." "I'm from Midland," answers a timid voice. All prisoners give Rod the name of their home. He remembers the map Alena showed him at the depot. Seems Alena's theory was correct. This gang has been kidnapping people from here to Midland. "Seems this has been going on for quite some time," Rod says. "Yes, they come each night, taking us where we do not know. No one ever returns," the woman replies. "Have they come tonight?" "No." As the woman utters the answer, Rod devises a plan. He can wait for them to come for another person, take them out, and retrieve the key. 30 prisoners, though. That is quite a lot of people to escort out of the city. Alena should be in the city now. There has to be a way to contact her. If only the earpiece didn't break during our fall into the sewers. The Dark One creeps out from the recesses once again to speak out in dissatisfaction. "We don't have time for this. You can't be everyone's hero." He ignores the dark voice and turns back to the prisoners. "Stay out of sight. and don't do anything out of the ordinary to alarm them." A child runs up to Rod and the woman, pointing excitedly to the staircase. The hunter looks. The bottom stairs are brighter than before. The creatures are descending with several torches. He nods to the child, then looks back at the woman. She agrees to the hunter's plan. Rod backs up to the hallway corner to stay out of sight. He's met by a deformed hand reaching for him. The wretch grasps Rod's neck. He fights for breath as he's lifted off the ground and slammed into the wall. The creature's face comes into view. It's another gangly creature from the battle near the bridge. Its slanted nostrils breathe in deeply, and its soulless eyes pierce into Rod's. It speaks in a garbled tone. "Mad flesh." Eager, it charges in for a bite, halting as a metal cylinder bursts out of its chest. The creature loosens its grip, giving Rod the opportunity to unsheath his sword. He thrusts the blade skyward into the demon's jaw and out its head, killing the beast. As it falls to the ground, Annabelle is standing behind it, holding the blood-soaked rebar, trembling from adrenaline and fear. Her eyes glazed over. Rod steps over the corpse and kneels beside her. He puts his hand on her shoulder, but she jerks back. He talks calmly to her, doing his best to bring Annabelle back from the fueled rush. She starts to come to. Her eyes lose the glaze. Annabelle can see Rod in front of her. She breaks down.
"I saw the creature creeping up on you. I tried to whistle, but you couldn't hear me,"
she sobs.
"I didn't know what to do."
"It's okay. You did great. I don't think it's coming back." Rod holds her, trying to calm the poor girl's crying. A faint whistle echoes behind the pair. A prisoner is trying to get Rod's attention. He moves his finger under the girl's chin and gently turns her head upward. Their eyes lock. Rod places his index finger over his lips, signaling to Annabelle to remain silent. "More coming," he whispers. They move over to the wall and Rod peers down the hallway.
"What are those things?"
Annabelle asks. "They're thralls, adults that have been possessed by demons, much like the imps. Again, I've never seen any human possessed for such an extended period of time. The demons have been able to cross into our dimension permanently." 4 thralls appear down the hall as they round the visible stairs. The largest is in the front, followed by 3. 2 of the creatures are holding torches as they head to the cells. The largest thrall is no doubt the Alpha, slouching as it skulks down the hallway. The creature is breathing so heavily, Rod hears it from his position. As they creep closer to the cell doors, the prisoners rush to the back, hiding from the Chosen. During this time, it's every man for themselves. Full of terror, no other person will lift a finger to help. Several did at the beginning. Young men with the will to fight tried to protect the women and children, but the thralls ripped the usurpers apart, devouring them in front of the other prisoners to signal their dominance and quell any other thoughts of being heroes. The creatures stop at the cell door closest to Rod and Annabelle. He turns to Annabelle, motioning to remain quiet and stay put. The Alpha Thrall speaks in an ancient dialect to the other 3. An otherwise idyllic-sounding language. From these beasts, it's molestation on the ears. He doesn't understand the language, but deciphers the meaning from its tone. The smallest thrall steps forward, producing a keyring. The demon gimps to the cell door and unlocks it, the pins echoing through the hallway. One of the torch-wielding thralls enters the cell first, illuminating the prisoners for the Alpha. Stepping in, the hunched leader typically looks over each human leisurely, building the uneasiness for the prisoners. The ritual is a nerve-wracking moment, with a pressure that's unbearable. The creature, more often than not, would spend upwards of 20 minutes eyeing each captive, receiving a sick thrill out of it. Not so this night. Too much is going on up above. Rod can sense the agitation and hurriedness of the alpha demon. The thrall points to a small boy in the corner. The women gasp as the smallest thrall lumbers over. The boy is digging deeper into the mildew haystack. The thrall brushes the hay from either side, digging through like a dog looking for its bone. It grabs the boy by the neck and hobbles back toward the alpha. The terrified child does his best to fight back, but he's just too weak and malnourished. The remaining prisoners sit huddled, face down, the sobs masked by their arms. The thrall displays the boy to the alpha. The creature kneels down to the frail child and takes several deep whiffs, savoring the sweetness of terror exuding from his pores. The slouching lord smiles horrifically, showcasing a black void of snarled yellow teeth with the stitch of death. Placing its hand on the boy's face, the alpha scans him. Satisfied, the alpha stands back up and gestures to the smaller thrall. Their pick is complete, and the demons exit the cell. The smaller thrall hands the dirty blonde boy to one of the torch wielders and slams the cell door, locking it. The creatures make their way back toward the stairs with the human prize in tow. Again, the alpha is in the front, and the torch wielders on either side, with the smaller thrall bringing up the rear. This gives Rod the perfect opportunity to strike. He rounds the corner with his sword in hand, crouching and moving to the pack of thralls. All the prisoners scurry to the bars in hopes of watching the events play out in their favor, the thralls still oblivious to the hunter creeping to them with a thirst for blood. The small thrall is silenced first, pulling the blade to the creature's neck and slicing it wide open. As the body goes limp and falls to the ground, Rod catches it to soften the sound as to not alert the remaining prey. The three continue their pace to the stairs. The next part will be a little tricky, since the torch wielders are moving side by side. The hunter will need to dispatch them at the same time. He moves closer to the two, waiting to make sure they didn't hear his footsteps. With nimble feet and a steady hand, Rod strikes at the two thralls. Attacking the demon on the right first, he pushes the blade directly in the back of its head, pulling out and spinning clockwise to finish the assault by slicing the left thrall's head cleanly off its neck. The thud of the head stops the alpha thrall dead in its tracks, and it turns to investigate the noise. The alpha demon is met with two quick downward swipes of Rod's sword, each swing severing the fiend's arms from its body. Before it can react, the hunter thrusts the blade into the creature's mouth. Clicking the button at the base of the hilt sends the extended piece of the sword out the back of the alpha's head, and brain matter bursts out in multiple directions. In one fluid motion, Rod retracts the extended portion and withdraws the sword from the alpha's head. The beast falls to the ground like a sack of wet potatoes. He kneels down, grabbing part of the creature's tattered clothing, and wipes the blood from his sword. He sheathes it and looks back at the boy. "You all right?"
"Yes, sir."
The young boy, no more than 10, stands in a frightened and somewhat euphoric trance. His oily blonde hair lays over his pastel face, masking the various shades of emotions. In a single instant, the orphan was in sheer terror of his fate, wondering if he would become food for the creatures, or something worse, something he can't begin to comprehend. His fear fades because of this man, who appeared out of nowhere and saved them all from a hellish fate. So many emotions are coursing through his mind and body, he doesn't know whether to scream out of fear or jump for joy. Rod walks over to the smaller thrall and searches for the cell key. Found, he taps the malnourished child from his dazed stance and dangles the key in front of him. "Go unlock the doors." The boy comes to, then stares at the key, then back at Rod. His face grows into excitement. He shakes his head ecstatically and races down the hallway. "Hey, kid, there's a girl at the end of the hallway. Her name is Annabelle. She's a friend. She will help you." The boy tilts his head slightly, giving a thumbs up as he doubles back to the cells. Rod whistles twice, letting Annabelle know that the coast is clear. Turning to the stairs, he walks to the first step, stopping and listening, scanning the torches around him. The light is dim. It isn't intensifying, suggesting more thralls aren't descending to them. Looks like the perfect chance for their escape. Rod twists back to the passageway. The prisoners are moving in his direction. He digs into his pocket and pulls out the rusted tin case, lipping it open and staring down at the lonely cigarette. Rod contemplates indulging now. He fights the urge and slips it back in his pocket. Once they make it out of the city, he'll celebrate. The group arrives next to the hunter, still staring up at the stairs. The female leader walks to Rod, parting through the prisoners. "Do you hear anything?" "No. Seems rather quiet. That could go either way, really." "How so?" "They heard us and are waiting for us to make it to the top. Or they didn't, and we can make a clean getaway." If they are indeed waiting for them to go up the stairs, it will create a choke point, putting the group at a huge disadvantage. Rod may not be able to save anyone. The hunter makes his decision and talks to the group. "We're going up together, but stay several feet behind me. Once I secure the area, I'll whistle for everyone to proceed. Agreed?" They all nod in agreement. Rod takes a breath, pulls out his sword, and ascends up the stairs. Not much is around the first couple stories. The areas are plagued with rubble and vines. The doorways to the floors are barricaded off by the ceiling or other large chunks of debris. A small torch bathes each platform with a faint warmth. The group reaches the 6th or 7th floor, by Rod's guess, when an opening appears. Slabs of concrete rubble and rusted steel block the majority of the doorway, except for a small section in the left-hand corner, where there is enough space to squeeze through. Rod crouches and slides through first. Getting to his feet, he unsheaths his sword again and surveys the room. A long hallway stretches before him, black, moldy, and blanketed with nature. He looks back. One by one, the prisoners squeeze through the hole safely. Deciding to check ahead, Rod sneaks down the vine-infested hallway, taking great care to not cause the floor to creak and squeal. He stops at the corner, easing his head out into the still twilight evening. The hallway leads out into a large area. Several rectangular, glassless windows line one side of the wall, allowing in the cool night air. The moonlight moves stealthily into the room, revealing nothing more than emptiness. Debris is scattered here and there. Rod walks over to the ancient window and peers out. The cool breeze hits his face, sending chills down his body. Closing his eyes, the hunter lets the cool wind take him away to a warm place deep in his soul. This allows his senses to dull for a brief moment. A moment of peace. A moment of no death or pain, just cool night air. Fragments from the ancient building ricochet across the floor behind him. Rod pulls back from the breeze and pivots, with Damon Malum pointing into the empty room. Standing before him is a tiny, comforting sight. A little robot with big, illuminating eyes staring blankly back. "Poppy," Rod calls happily. The little automaton waves and walks over. He kneels down to Poppy. "Well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes? How'd you find us?" The little robot stops and pushes a little button on its right hand. A compartment on Poppy's chest opens, and a little speaker extends out. Rod knew what was going to follow. The voice of Poppy's creator erupts out of the speaker. "Damn it, where the hell have you been? We've been looking all over for you." Alena's stern tone crackles out of the speaker. Rod tries at first to calm her down, but he knows it won't work. He gives in and lets Alena rip him. Luckily, the speaker cracks and breaks up during her high-pitched rant. Rod and Poppy look at each other, both shrugging their shoulders, waiting for the young hunter to finish. Alena pauses to take a breath, giving Rod the opportunity to speak. So, what's going on out there?
That's what I've been trying to tell you. It's total war out here. The explosion, which I'm assuming was your doing, woke every living and non-living thing up out here.
I had an issue with arachnids in the sewers.
Looks like the explosion sent them to the surface, Alena responds. I also found the survivors from the exchange with the gang.
Everyone's safe? Rod asks.
No worse for wear.
Good. I found more. You got enough room?
Well, shit, yeah.
Alena enthusiastically. Good, 'cause we're making our way out of this tower.
All right, Poppy's got our location. He'll lead you to us. Good luck.
You too. The speaker goes silent and retracts back into Poppy's chest. The little automaton scans the perimeter with his bright oval eyes, confirming the coast is clear before they depart. The prisoners muster the courage to walk out into the room and to Rod and Poppy. The leader stands next to Rod.
What was that god-awful screeching?
I was getting my ass chewed out.
By what?
You'll see soon enough. We need to follow this little robot. His name is Poppy. He's going to lead us out of here. As they ready to depart, a feeling washes over the hunter, a presence that chills his very bones. The hairs on his neck stand erect as the hunter's hands reach for his pistols. A rumbling up above them. No one reacts to it but Rod. He looks up, then back over to the stairs. A force is urging him to continue this journey. The only way to finish this is up those steps. A great evil is resting there. Dormant now, but it will soon awaken. Rod must stop it.
Don't do this. We need to get out of here. It's too strong for you now.
It must be now, he says to the deep recesses of his soul. Rod kneels back down to Poppy and taps the robot on the shoulder, both floodlit eyes staring back at him. There's something I need to do. You'll have to lead these people to Alena on your own. Can you handle it? The little guy gives a big thumbs up and spits out a couple of beeps and boops. Rod smiles and extends his fist. Poppy looks at his fist, then back to Rod. The gesture registers, and Poppy bumps his little fist to Rod's. I'll catch up soon. Poppy races to the head of the group and waves them to follow. Annabelle watches Rod go in the opposite direction. She rushes over to the hunter and wraps her small arms around his waist.
Please don't go,
she pleads with a trembling voice. Just like he's done all evening, Rod calms her down. There's something I have to take care of first. I need to end this once and for all. We all need to play a part. Rod wipes the tears from her eyes. You have a part to play as well. Annabelle looks at him, somewhat bewildered, until Rod gestures to the younger children behind them. She accepts her new position and nods to the hunter with a stern resolve.
Be safe, and come back to us.
I will. He smiles at the young girl and sends her back to the group. Annabelle hurries to the cluster of escapees as they head off into the darkness of the vast open room. She turns back one last time to see her protector, but he's already vanished up the stairs. As the group heads out with Poppy, Rod races up the stairs, getting his second wind. Closer to the seventh wind by this point. He has a lot of ground to cover, judging from the height of the tower when he and Annabelle were hanging on to dear life with the thrall. Adrenaline pumps through his veins again as his pace accelerates even more.
You need to stop this, Rod.
The dark voice grows ever agitated with each step the hunter takes to the top of the tower. The energy exuding from the Dark One is new to Rod. For so many years, the Dark One relished in the death of planewalkers. Never would it want to miss this opportunity. So why now?
Rod contemplates this from a deeper schism in his mind, a place within himself that only he can access. The darkness always knew Rod's plans or how he's thinking. Is the darkness just a torn fragment of himself, or is it something otherworldly? Rod would often question this when the voice grew too much to handle. The only fear he has left in this world was from this apparition. He never felt strong enough to say no to it. It had some strange hold over him. This entity knew things about Rod that he did not, or at least he couldn't, recall. This new sensation that rushes over him this night changes everything. Continuing his sprint up the stairs, a new strength washes over, giving him a power never felt within himself. Tonight, not even the demon in his mind could stop him.